Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Gagnon Atelier. I'm your old pal, Tim Gagnon, and this is the Modern Masters Podcast. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. We've got such a cool show today. I got to be honest, I am going to have to restrain myself because there's geeking out and then there's what I'm going to be doing today. This is a dream broadcast for me. I am so excited. You have no idea. When you're growing up as an artist, you have your art heroes. You have those people that like first catch your attention, that they grab you and they just like, wow, what is it about this? There's something about this artwork that just sucks you in and it draws you in and you start to follow those artists. And for me, growing up in a little tiny town, Berlin, New Hampshire, there's more moose than people up there. It's a little tiny small town in northern New Hampshire. And there wasn't a lot to do. There wasn't a lot of things, it was a small town. And I was a huge comic book fan. I discovered comic books when I was a young boy, and the neighbor boy who was a teenager would get comic books because he had a job, and he would get comic books on Wednesdays, and he would bring them home, and we would all us neighborhood kids would sit around him. His name was Steve Harvey. We'd sit on him, and I was so young I would literally sit on his lap, and he would read comic books to us. And so that was my first introduction to the comic book art and all this. And as I grew up and I'm drawing all these superheroes and I'm dreaming of being a comic book artist one day, I came across some cover artists and some of these amazing, fully painted covers and things like the Savage Sword of Conan and different comic books. And there were all these like fully painted, beautiful pieces of artwork. And three artists, I know what I'm doing. I can count. But there were three artists that just struck me. The first was Boris Vallejo, and then it was Joe Jusko and Julie Bell. Well, I have just had the pleasure of meeting backstage two of those people. And today, you and I are going to get to chat with one of those artists. So I am losing my mind with joy over this, and I cannot wait. But before we do that, guys, if you could do me a favor, if you can like and share this broadcast, this post, go to the Gagnon Atelier Facebook page and like that page for us and share this broadcast to your Facebook page. That would be a huge help to us. And also, if you love the Modern Masters Podcast, go over to our YouTube channel. Just type in Gagnon Atelier on YouTube, and if you can you subscribe. Yeah, that's how you do it. I know what I'm doing. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification button, you'll get notifications of all of the different interviews that we do on the Modern Masters Podcast, as well as a lot of our new videos for the Illuminated Messiah and some of our other educational topical videos that we produce every week. That would be fantastic, and I would greatly appreciate you doing that. And so with that, if you have liked all of the cool different things that we have showing, like the bumpers and the show intros, the Gagnon Atelier logo and all that, those were done by us, by our friends over at Edge Digital Agency. Actually, no, it's not .com. It's edgedigital.agency. They are a digital media marketing company. And if you have any needs for that, you should check them out. They have made a beautiful commercial for us. They are the sponsor of this show. And so let's go ahead and play their video, and so that you can see, because they've got a special offer just for you.
Hey guys, this is Judah with Edge Digital Agency. We want to offer something special to the friends and family of Gagnon Atelier, our digital diagnostic. In this free consultation, we equip you with the tools and strategies you need to maximize your online impact. For example, your website needs to wow customers and serve them well, but it also needs to rank high on search engines like Google, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Visit us today at edgedigital.agency. And when you reach out, make sure to mention that you saw us on one of Tim's videos. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to hearing from you.
You got to love that music. It just puts you in a good mood, all that whistling and stuff. It's just fun. But check them out. Go again to edgedigital.agency, and you can check them out and just tell them that your old pal Tim sent you, and you will give you a special deal for their services. All right, guys. Well, I'm excited. I'm so excited. This is going to be so great. Here we go. Let's bring her on. This is one of my ultimate art heroes. Here she is. Julie Bell. There she is. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm like, it's bad. I'm probably going to embarrass myself multiple times in this interview, so I apologize. So welcome to the show. This is like the fact that you agreed to come on, when I emailed you, I thought 1 in a billion chance. And then she said, yeah, sure, I'd love to come on. I'm not going to exaggerate. I was running around this studio like I was 6 years old, screaming, jumping up and down. The dog was going crazy. I ran and told the wife. She's like, I don't know who that is, but it sounds pretty exciting. So I was like, I ran and showed her like books and things that I had from my high school. And I'm like, this one.
That's great.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. Welcome to the Modern Masters podcast.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm really excited to be here. I love the podcast, the shows that I've seen of yours, and love the way you just, bring your friendliness to the whole thing and your enthusiasm, your curiosity. It's great. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this is great. I'm excited to talk to you because I've been following you literally since high school. And so I graduated in 1990. And so really, I discovered you right towards the end, like my senior year. And then when I was in the military, in the Air Force in the early 90s, I really began to follow your work. And that's when you were working with Marvel Comics, and you were doing the different superheroes and all that. It was just like, for me growing up, reading comic books and dreaming of, being a comic book artist, as a lot of kids do. It was just seeing your artwork and your husband's artwork and other artists like Joe Jusko. You three were like my art heroes.
Oh, that's
so it was really, it inspired me to like, okay, this is the kind of art. This is what I want to be like. This is the kind of art I want to be like. And I chased that dream for a long time. I do a lot of things differently now, but I think the style that I paint with now, it's painfully obvious who I grew up looking at, and the style and the genre and the different way, just in the little things like lighting and backgrounds and everything else. And so, first of all, thank you for being so awesome.
Oh, thank you. I really liked your story, talking about the comics that you were about, you being on your friend's knee and all that kind of thing. Because it just made me think about how before I was doing anything like this kind of work, any kind of illustration of that type, I always had wanted to do things for children's books. And I was thinking of younger kids because I just really always like the way that I feel when you talk to kids, when you are like I have my own 2 sons, and I really enjoy that connection that you get with a kid, the way they're so honest and so straight, and you can just really give them something to make empower them and that kind of a thing. And that was what I felt like I wanted to bring to my children's books. And it just made me think about that. Even though I wasn't specifically making children's books, I was still giving that same thing to kids. I mean, that wasn't when you were little, because it was, I wasn't doing it at that time, but it just made me, when you said that, it made me realize I really was still, kind of fulfilling that dream that I had at the time. So that's
absolutely cool. I think sometimes people they discount that genre a little bit in art. And I can say, for me personally, the impact that, as silly as it is, the impact that comic books had on my life was extremely impactful. even to the point of joining the military. And and we're going to show one of your paintings here coming up, but just Captain America had such an influence on me that, you know, patriotism is a huge thing for me. Like, I wear American flags all the time and have for forever. It's just what I do, you know, and some people think it's hokey and old fashioned, but it's like, that's the impact that it had on me. And growing up reading those comic books, and I think one of the reasons why I'm so good with reading the King James Bible is from all the Thor comic books I read.
That's cool.
You know, so it's like it does have an impact, and with art like yours, it absolutely had a massive impact on me, because it showed me that it could be a fine art, and to see your heroes looking real. It really made you go, whoa, what is that? You know? And so, and being a 15-year-old boy, seeing all those women, you know, didn't help. But it really did. It was impactful. So it's, you know, so you wanted to be a children's book illustrator.
Yeah. Originally when I was studying art in school, and that was really what because I used to love comics when I was a kid. I really, really did, but I really didn't read superhero comics at that time. I didn't read superhero comics until I was about 18 or 20 years old. But when I was younger, I mean, I loved like Archie and that kind of stuff, you know, and, you know, but anyway, yeah, I just always loved children's book art. And I had always wanted to do that. And I really had fixed my mind that was what I wanted to do. And then I got into doing this other stuff. But actually right now I am doing a children's book of my own. I've written the story.
Really?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be, the only people who've seen it are the people that are like my editor. I got an editor and I have a publisher. And so they've seen it, you know, of course, but that's really it for the world. So it's going to be a little while before it's out. The pandemic kind of put a lot of the stuff
puts everything on hold. Yeah,
but that's okay, because I got caught up with a lot of other things in the meantime. But it's going to be a pretty different children's book. But it's this feeling that I wanted to give my own kids in a story or whatever, and I just thought, okay, now it's the time for me to do this book, and I'm excited about that. So.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So how would you describe the artwork in it? Is it your traditional style, or is it a different variation?
No, it doesn't have, there's only very little kind of a human characters, and it's not really characters even, but there's a little bit of human type people. And there are animals, but it's all done in this more decorative kind of stylized. You may have seen some of my my things that I've done more recently with animals that have a more, I don't know how to describe it, but
ethereal look is the way I described it.
Yeah, it's just not as real. It is realistic, but it's taken in, you know, made it more decorative and that kind of thing. And I'll send you some pictures that you can put up there so that you can, you know.
Great.
It's not like you haven't seen some of the pictures yet. You know, the pictures have been out there, but now they're going to be in this book, and I am making brand new ones to go in there with them. So it's
fantastic.
I'm really excited about it. I think
children's books are fun. I recently did one called Blob Farley, which is about a little blob fish that swims up from the depths of the sea to meet some children and plays with them and stuff. Cool. And children's books are a blast to do. Yeah. They really are, and it's just fun. It's different, you know. It's different, but it's really fun and challenging in a lot of different ways. So I'm excited that you're still making your dreams come true. You know, you had this prolific career, but yet you're still dreaming, and that's so beautiful.
I feel like I just have so many dreams that I want to fulfill. It's crazy. Like every time, you know, I start to work on a new one, I get a new one. And then it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's just a big adventure, you know, and it's like I'm going along this path and there's like, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. So it's
right. And that's so beautiful. That's you know, it's like some people, they get in their career and they get locked in and they just want to stay there. but to still dream and to still strive and to still, because I was watching you just the minute you started talking about it, you got all giddy and you got all bubbly, and it was like, look at her go, she's excited. And it's like, that's what's so great about the life of an artist, because we tend to be big dreamers.
That's
and
right.
Coming up with these new projects and these new ideas, and they scare us a little bit, but when we're doing them, we get so excited. It's like, it's a rough life. It's a rough life.
When you're scared, that's a really good sign, right?
I think so. I'm terrified all the time.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, in a good way. It's like, it's kind of like roller coaster terrified. It's super fun, but you're scared out of your mind,
Yeah, and you just have to I have to constantly, when I sit down to paint, the first thing I'm like, okay, this is not brain surgery. I'm allowed to make a mistake. I can make a mistake and nobody's going to get hurt.
Oh, that's funny. But yet true. Yeah, we're not doing brain surgery, which is funny, because I just before here I was teaching. I teach art history at the local college here, Gulf Coast State College, and I just left, and we were talking about one of the things in our class today was how during the Renaissance, artists and surgeons were in the same trade union. They were in the same guild.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I do think, I don't know if it has anything to do with this, but I have noticed that almost every single doctor that I ever go to for anything, it comes up like, what do you do? And then it gets into this discussion about art. And they either are people who studied art, wanted to be artists, collect art, they're really into art, and I just think there's something that crosses over there, and like a fascination with the human body or life, or, even just with biology, that kind of curiosity that happens in the way that you analyze things, and, you figure out patterns within things. It's so similar, to sciences that way. It's very interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that. My doctor, the lady that I go to, she's actually a nurse practitioner, but I've been going to her since my kids were born and before that. And so she's practically like a mom to me in a lot of ways. But her husband died very young, and she was super depressed, and she was going couch to bed. And her friends did like an intervention. Like, they went to her house, they threw her in the shower, get dressed. We're taking you out. You're going out. And she was like, where are we going? I don't want to. She was super depressed. And they brought her to art class. They brought her to painting lessons.
Huh.
Like, I'm 55 years old. I've never seen a paintbrush in my life. You're crazy. Well, now she paints 4 hours every day. She can't leave. If you go to her, when I go to get my checkup, because she loves to stab me with needles and watch me pass out, because super cool and handsome people pass out when they get blood drawn. It's just that's what that makes sense to me. So, but every time I go, her waiting room and her offices, it looks like an art gallery for her paintings, hundreds and hundreds of paintings of everything and everything. And she says painting saved her life.
Wow.
And so it's interesting how what you're saying about the medical profession having this, they're drawn to art. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Neat. See how we just went a whole different, we went down a rabbit trail there, but it's awesome. That's what's so great about the Modern Masters podcast. You learn all kinds of stuff. So let's show off some of your artwork. And I'm going to show you one so that people can understand what I saw when I was a young man, and not so young anymore. Oh. So let's show some of that off, because it is it's gonna be I'm so excited right now. It's not even funny. So tell us a little bit, when we're looking at this is obviously early in your career. You're obviously working for Marvel Comics. And this was actually when they were financially in the tank, going bankrupt. But but this was one of the first times I saw Captain America look like a human. And it was like, whoa, I have to have this, And so tell us about like how you started working with them, and a little bit because I want to say, does your son work for them now and do artwork for them?
Yes, my son David Palumbo just did the most recent entire set of Marvel masterpieces. I think it was 135 or 140 pieces. I'm not really sure of the number exactly, but something like that. And man, they are so good and so strong. And I'm so intensely proud of him.
And you should be. You know, it's funny. He had posted one on his Facebook page, and I wish I had the image here. Maybe I'll edit it in the post-production. Yeah. But he had a painting that he did of the superhero from the X-Men, Rogue.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
But he painted her like an actual person.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is she didn't look like a fitness bikini model.
Right.
She looked like a person, a regular, Joe Q public. Yeah. And it was a great painting, but apparently fans, comic book fans, they were not happy with that portrayal.
Some of them were. Some of them weren't. I
loved it. And it was but it was interesting, his take. It was like, wow, that's how it is. Because, in the comic book world, especially with the actual comic book art, all the women are pretty much the same. They just have a different costume.
Yeah.
All the men are the same.
He chose to do that. I love it that he chose to do that he really, and I've seen this in his book cover, like illustration. He has done a lot of book covers in the past. And he more and more, he was doing that. Like he was just allowing the models to look like real women. And I was like, that's so great. It's like a real like he really does honor women and doesn't, it's like that whole idea of like, let's let people be people. And I do think it's real. I mean, even the men that he's painted, some of them are a lot thinner than the superheroes, like the way that I did it and whatever. And I just love it that he did his entirely own take on the whole thing.
Right. You did a good job, Mom. You raised them right. Treating them ladies the way they should be treated. That's good. Girl power.
Yeah. Thank you, Brain.
There you go. Yeah. So it's really great. So I can't wait. I'm going to edit that in. I'm totally editing that into the show. It's going to be good. So let's look at your picture and just tell us like how you started with Marvel and how, like, what the process was and what this project was and all of that. So here we go. Here's this picture right here. Boom. There's my man, Captain America. Oh boy.
Yeah, I like the way that one came out. So now this was not the first things I did for Marvel, but it was in that series of the Marvel Masterpieces, which was super exciting that they came to Boris and me together to do that set.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, but previous to that, what had happened is I had been doing book covers and video game covers, mostly for my work in my career. And the thing is that, like I said, when I was about 18 or 20, I did start reading some superhero comics, and I just kind of always liked that. I liked Marvel in particular. So I kind of always had in the back of my mind that Marvel was a really cool thing.
This is why we can be friends. I said, this is why we can be friends.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. We would have been in a club together making comic books if we were in high school together.
You wouldn't have talked to me in high school.
I don't know. Anyway, no, seriously, that's who my friends were in high school. Were a couple in junior high, actually. A couple of boys, and we did have a comic book that we made together. It was really fun. It wasn't superheroes, but anyway, that was really cool. But yeah, that was super fun. But anyway, so yeah, with Marvel, then I had been doing some paintings for a while that featured this kind of metal flesh, and you've probably seen some of those. I'd started out doing that with heavy metal, and I got into doing a series of those. So I thought, well, I'm going to take some of my work over. I didn't know anything about how do you get work with Marvel, but at this point I had gotten enough bravery from having dealt with the people in the video game places and the book publishers. And Boris knew some of the folks at Marvel, and I think it was John Romita that he had known. Yeah, it was John Romita, and he called him up and said, "Hey, could you take a look at Julie's work? I think you're going to really like it." So we live about an hour and a half from the Holland Tunnel going into New York City. So I just drove over to there and brought my work in and, opened it up and showed it to John Romita. And he really, really liked it a lot. And the first thing that he thought of having me do were a couple of covers for The Savage Sword of Conan, which I thought was super exciting because I don't believe there were any female artists for that previous to that I know of anyway. So anyway, I did some of those, and then I thought, okay, well, what I'm going to do with these, I want to bring in this metal stuff so they'll see that, because they'll be really like excited about it, and it'll be something different that they don't typically have here in Marvel things. And so when I did the first one, which was this one where there was this charging horse that was made out of chrome, I'll send you a shot of that you can put in here.
Sure.
So when they saw that, then that was when they were just starting to do trading cards. And they said, you know what, this would be really cool to see what would you do with Iron Man and Silver Surfer. And so they assigned those first 2 cards to me. And then I think they also gave me one of Psylocke at that same time. So I think it was those 3 cards together. So then I just thought, all right, this is my moment to really like prove myself at Marvel.
Right. Yeah.
And so I just, really did as much as I could to do these really cool paintings, and they were very happy with them. And then it just kind of blossomed from there. And then, the trading card industry was picking up, and they started giving me more from other series after that. And it just kind of moved along from there.
Right. Now how, because these were trading cards,
yes.
And I had them all. I'll tell you what, I bought every one that I could. So how big is the original painting of this Captain America as an example?
That, I think it was on a board that's about like 16 by 20, but it would have been, the painting itself is a little smaller than that.
Okay.
Inches. So it's not a very big painting.
Right. No, and of course it shrunk down to the size of a baseball card.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think that sometimes if you try to, like, if you had a really big painting and you shrink it down too much, it kind of doesn't translate as well. I don't know. I think there's a certain range you want to try to make it be from this to that and not from that to that.
Right. You don't want to go too big.
You don't want to make it smaller than it's going to print, or even the original size it'll print. You want to.
Right. You still want it to look good, because I know, and it'll tighten things up too. So that's the thing. I know like comic book pages are drawn on 11 by 17, but it's shrunk down. A comic book is actually pretty small. So, but it's not too much of a jump. So that's really neat. So basically Boris, your husband, knew somebody, and he kind of made the call, got you in. So that really helped you out there. And so, but you still have to impress. Sometimes you get these great opportunities, but you've got to be prepared for the opportunity.
Nobody can open the door and give you the job. I mean, they could, I guess, but you're going to fall on your face within the first time if that's what happens. Like, you've got to be able to it was up to me to get the job. He introduced me, and that was a huge help. But it was up to me to make it happen. He didn't even go with me to the appointment or anything. So
right, and I think that's a key thing that a lot of artists that are starting out, when you are given an opportunity, you've got to be prepared ahead of time to take advantage of that opportunity.
Right,
and you got to be prepared to walk through the door and succeed. Yes. And that's the time in the studio. That's the work. You had to put the work in to get you so that you could, it's one thing to get the interview. It's another thing to get the job. It's another thing to keep the job.
Right. Exactly. That's the point. That is the point, because I can't tell you. I mean, we've seen a few artists that we have been friends with and made introductions at Marvel and other places, and they did not do that follow through work. And, it just didn't work out for them because they didn't do it. I mean, it's funny that you say that about being ready for the opportunity, because back in the days when I was thinking of just doing children's book, and this was years before I met Boris, I had been doing some little drawings and things, and I really just loved this idea of the children's books. And a friend of mine said, why don't you just send them some copies of what you do and see what happens? And I was like, God, that's such a good idea. So I just went to the library, which we did back then, went to a library.
Yep.
I wrote down the addresses of the publishers that I liked the art in those books. And then I just made some copies of my drawings and I mailed them to this publisher. And and then I actually did get an actual letter that was not a form letter back from the first one that I sent out. And they said, we really like what you've sent us. Can you send us some more? And I just didn't do it because, it was so dumb. I just was not mentally prepared. And I just thought, oh, this is how easy it is. I don't know. And then I didn't have enough confidence in myself to do the next step.
Right.
So I just let that ball drop thinking, well, I'll do it when I'm ready, and then after that, I sent things to a different publisher and then I got nothing back, or I got a form letter back. And that was like the one and only time that I just instantly got this letter back, like a real letter from some human being. And I had no idea how precious and special that was.
Right.
And I just let it go because I didn't know
You didn't know what to do next. Yeah. And that's a great story because what do they say? Youth is wasted on the young. Sometimes
Exactly.
like, we don't know what we have.
But it wasn't wasted because then when like this thing with Marvel or anybody else came up, I was like, this is the opportunity. Do not waste it ever, ever again.
Jump all over it. Right. That is great advice. Now, do you think, let's go down a road here. If you would have had, say, an art mentor or someone in your life that could have coached you through that, you probably would have ended up doing a lot more children's books right away.
Probably. I think the biggest thing that really was hard for me was that I didn't even understand that people did that for a living, really. It didn't have a reality to me because the only artists that I knew were art teachers and not really anybody who was working professionally. And so it just was so abstract to think of, how do you ever do this,
Yeah. And that, for me, that was the tough part. And that's one of the reasons I joined the military. When I was growing up, I had these dreams of doing comic book art and all these things. I didn't know anybody that knew anything. Even my art teacher in high school, he couldn't, so he tried to steer me to be a graphic designer, which I ended up doing. And I ended up having to join the military because there were no other options for me. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I'm joining the military. Now, thankfully, when I was in the military, I was an artist for the military.
That's neat. Yeah.
Which helped. Yeah.
There's a lot of art that they want too.
It really is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And most art now is done by, they have, military contractors, civilian contractors that work for the military, but you can make a thriving career as an artist in the military.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think so. Like in my squadron, we designed weapon system. We invented weapons and countermeasures and things like that. So I was doing we were doing schematics, we were doing artist renderings, everything from that to PowerPoint slideshows and different things. So I had a pretty good career. But when it came time to be a comic book artist and that, it was like, I was literally winging it when I started my career. Ended up self-publishing comic books because I had no idea how to get in because we didn't have the internet. Yeah. We didn't have all these things. The kids nowadays.
The internet has done so much for art and just like, I really like, I know there's always a good and a bad thing about everything, but I think the internet is so awesome because it just makes the world like the general knowledge of everybody is just going to go up and up and up,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And exposure to culture and all that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just this whole show. Thank you, internet. It's like, it's so great to be able to and a perfect example. I would have never been able to back then find a way to contact someone like you to give me advice or mentor me to get into that field. As much as I wanted to, it wasn't going to happen. And I wasn't in a position to be able to go to the San Diego Comic-Con, or matter of fact, I didn't even know about the San Diego Comic-Con.
Right.
So it's like, how do you break into an industry when there's like, it's such a,
that's what I'm saying. It's so mysterious. And it's like this completely, untouchable world that you just have no, I mean, my father was an architect and he knew some people in like interior design and that kind of thing. And, probably if I had expressed more, like had the self-confidence in my, and belief in myself just as a person, I think enough to really like push this idea and get to know more people that he knew. I think that going into his world, I would have been exposed to a little more, and then that could have taken me to a different thing also. But yeah, until I met Boris, I did not know any artists that made a living just with their art.
Right. Yeah. And most artists do that. They have to supplement their income because they're not able to do it full time. Mm-hmm. So most artists are also, they're teaching
teachers
art in, elementary school, high school, that kind of thing, or maybe college. And they have to do that, you know, and so it was a different world. And so you met Boris in what year?
89.
89. Okay. So I was junior.
Yeah.
Junior, senior. I graduated in 90. So right around there. And so you met him, and he talk to us about when you met him, what exactly was he showing you how to do this?
Well, I mean, I met him because I was doing bodybuilding. I was a competitive bodybuilder, and I had won a show that the guy who organized the show knew Boris and said, you really should work with her as a model. So, there was that. And then we just got to know each other. And the first time I went to see him, to work with him, I took some of my artwork to show him just to see what did he think, and he was like, oh, this is very nice, and it wasn't overwhelmed, I'll tell you.
He wasn't blown away.
No. But, but he said, because he could tell. And now that I know so much that I know now, I could see what he saw. And he was seeing somebody who, had certain skills, but didn't understand how to use reference to work from and that kind of a thing. And I was like a lot of artists that I knew back then, and that I even now, a lot of artists do feel like they should be able to just throw it all out of your head and not have to look at any reference, which is nuts, because even when you're working from life, which I used to do a lot of that too, when you're working from life, you're looking at reference, Yeah. And I can tell you that if Michelangelo or anybody in art history would have had photo reference, they certainly would have
used it.
And it's the idea that you can't do that is just silly. But anyway, he was saying, why don't you get yourself some good reference? And that's another thing. Good reference is also different from just reference. So get yourself some good reference and really, try this. And so anyway, I just, he really told me what I was lacking in. And then I watched him paint one time, and the way he put his colors down, it was interesting because I had seen a woman years before working with pastel, thinking about colors very similar to the way that Boris did, where she put just colors that didn't make any sense to me. And it was so much more alive than colors that would make sense. The way that Boris would put these colors, he was making this guy's, the first painting I ever saw him do was a Hercules painting that was for his calendar. And he was working on the figure.
I had that calendar.
And it's this one where I can't remember, he was holding some kind of an animal, a boar, I think, or something. But anyway, he was making the legs kind of green, and he was just taking green, actual green, plop right on the legs. And I'm like, what in the heck is this guy doing? He's making the legs green. And then remembering this woman I knew before, and she was doing a drawing of her daughter, and she was just putting all these crazy colors. And I'm like, how do you know what colors to put? What are you doing? And she's like, oh, it doesn't matter what color you use. Just make sure the values are right. And I was like, at the time when she said that, I had no idea what she meant. And then I was doing the very same thing. And it wasn't like it really doesn't matter. It did matter, but it's not, I don't know, just the idea of just taking colors and working with the values, and then using warms and cools, and using it almost like the color is like a principle, rather than looking at that leg is brown, because this, and so no, don't use brown, use greens and oranges and blues and things. And it makes it so much more alive, because then you're reflecting all these colors around, it's not the idea of what you're seeing, it's what you're seeing.
Right. Exactly.
And what you're seeing, yeah.
Yeah, because he's pretty famous for. I mean, one of the things that I've always heard, like, what is he one of the things for is his flesh. When he
Right.
paints flesh, it's like it's different than anybody else. It's got this unique flavor to it that's just like makes you go, "Whoa, what is that?"
Because it's so alive, and it's not. There's no formula. There's no like this is how I do it every single time. Like sometimes I just got a letter from someone the other day asking me what's the secret to painting the flesh colors, and it's like it's just not like that. It's not like the secret. This is the recipe. This will make it happen for it. It's different every single time.
Right. So you're saying that one of the first things that he did for you when you were meeting him and you guys started your relationship is more of an art mentor instructor type of a situation.
Even that. No,
really interesting.
No, it wasn't that at all. It wasn't like he said, yeah, I'll teach you. It's just that he said, sure, you can watch me paint. And so I watched him paint. And then I did some things and I showed it to him and I said, what do you think? And then he would tell me, work on this and that. And then when we actually were together and he was with me while I was working, then he could, like, he was there more directly saying, and he could actually help me more directly on his pieces. But honestly, I think that one of the things is just that our brains are very similar, and it's really hard to even describe it. But I just feel like, I don't know. Did you ever see these devices where you could just take one device and put it next to another device and then turn something on and all the knowledge goes from that one to that one, just like that? And so it's kind of like that. It's weird because I think that our brains are so much alike that it just kind of happened that way.
Okay. So you like two phones pairing to each other.
Yeah.
Transferred over, and that's why you've been married so long too. It's like
and happily married, and it's
there
like
you go.
We're with each other every day, all day, and we
you
never
haven't murdered each other.
We don't ever get tired of each other.
It's funny. I had a pastor one time, and he had been married like 106 years, and he used to sit there and he'd put his arm around. He'd bring his wife up on stage. Everybody called her Miss Lena, and he'd say, Miss Lena and I have been married almost 50 years. And he'd say, and in that entire time, the word divorce has never entered our vocabulary. Murder, yes. Divorce, no.
That works, yeah.
That's what married life is like. Might want to murder each other, but
Yes. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we both were married before. We both learned a lot of things about ourselves and about marriage and about just how to be with another person and communication and everything. So I think it was just meant to be. I really do.
Yeah, it sounds like a match made in heaven to me. You guys have been a powerhouse. You're like the art power couple in the art world. That's great. Well, speaking of art, let's show some more of your artwork.
Okay.
It's like you don't do superheroes anymore. You let your children do that. Now you're going in a whole the stuff you're doing now with animals and combining things. They're so amazing. That's what I love about your artwork so much, is that it's not just like a horse picture. It's more, and it draws you in. So I'm going to show this one here of the tigers.
Okay.
Tell us about this one. This one it's like, because I'm painting a lion right now, actually. And I see this and I'm like, Tim, you got to step up your game, man. So here we go. Tell us about this one.
Well, these tigers live at the Philadelphia Zoo, and I have spent a lot of time taking photos. I live near Philadelphia, like about an hour from Philadelphia, and I love that zoo. And I go to a lot of zoos all over the place, and really just I love just being able to spend time sitting for maybe 2 hours in front of these animals and just watch them and take pictures of them. I'll have thousands of pictures by the end of the day. I just wanted to have this feeling. I would watch the tigers actually connecting with each other this way. That's one thing that really fascinates me, is the way that animals deal with each other, especially, well, like wolves are more of a society. I guess like cats and stuff have their, like, it's a different kind of a society type thing, but the way they bond with each other and the way they communicate, I love that. I want to be in their world. And it's the thing, I want the painting to feel like I'm in their world. I'm in there with them. You're one of them.
Right.
I want to feel their being. And so when I'm painting, that's what I'm trying to bring out for myself. I feel like I want to live in that painting.
Right. So you must have had a really good zoom lens to get that close to them.
Yeah. At that one, I have a 70-200 that I use, and it's very good. I do have a bigger one, but it's so big that it's, kind
Awkward.
of, yeah.
Right.
And I feel kind of dumb for having this thing that I haven't really used, because it was big and expensive, but I haven't really, it's just too big,
Yeah, sometimes we get excited, we buy new toys and we're like, we really don't need this.
I love my 70-200 Nikkor lens. It's just,
my wife told me I can't buy any more video editing equipment. She said, no more cameras. I'm like, but I need one. I really don't. One of those things. So now, you obviously take your own reference photos, and so I'm taking those pictures.
It is so much better to take my own. I mean, I can work from other photos, and I do occasionally bring things in from online that maybe I'll buy it from Dreams Time or something. I like to buy them because I want to support the artists that put their things online as well, But but I like much better if I can, like I said, kind of bond with the animals just, by
being there
around them, by that. Yeah. Because it really makes you feel more connected into the picture when you're doing it.
It really does. And this painting got, you were right in there with the cats, like you were saying, and you're one of them, and you're getting ready to get your head bumped by the cat.
Right.
Do the cat head bump thing. And it's beautiful. And the fur is just unbelievable. Yeah. So it's really, really exciting. So let's take a look at another one. This is where you bring humans and you put them in with the animals, which I think these next two are absolutely amazing. Here's one. Now, what's the name of this painting?
That is called Sacred, right? Is it Sacred? I think it's Sacred. Yeah. I
think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about this one.
No, okay. Well, those elephants are from the Baltimore Zoo. I had a client who wanted me to do a commissioned painting for him of an African elephant, or some African elephants, not this painting, a different painting. And so when that came up, it made me aware that I didn't have that much access to the African elephants. So I did find where there were some, and the nearest was in Baltimore. So, I spent some time there with them, and, they're really great models for sure. They, they were just being themselves. It is one of those things that I have a real mixed and torn feelings about, the whole zoo thing. It's really one of those horrible, sad realities that there are some animals that, I've spoken with zoo people who work in the zoos, and they talk about this, that they really are part of the conservation of animals. And there's some animals that really wouldn't even exist anymore if it weren't for zoos. And so I know that to be true. The world is just, humans kind of dominate. So that's that. But so anyway, I do appreciate when there's a zoo like the one in Baltimore, or the one in Tucson, Reed Park Zoo, Phoenix Zoo, where they really, I think they're beautiful zoos that they really are as happy.
Right. It's like, I wish all zoos could be like the animal kingdom in Disney World.
Yeah.
Where the elephants have hundreds of acres to play on and all these things. And
right.
It's not like a typical zoo.
No. When I was a kid, zoos were a lot more challenging for the animals.
It really is. Now, how did you get the woman on there? Because obviously, that wouldn't be happening. So
I guess it could be, but
right. So did you? Obviously, you had a model.
Yes.
And you had to get her to lay down in a way that it
Mm-hmm.
So did you start with the elephants and then go, okay, I'm going to put her here, and
Mm-hmm.
then you
Yep.
pose here?
Yep, that's what I did. And, it is an interesting challenge to make this kind of a combination and make it feel like they're in the same reality.
Yes.
It's not just like stick it on there and you're good to go. Because if you do, like, I've seen artwork where that happens and it really does look like that's what they did. It just looks kind of pasted on. And so the challenge for me is to kind of have it so that it really feels like they're together. They're really in the world.
Yeah, you don't want to look like clip art.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of easy for that to happen.
Right. And so now when you were doing that, because this is the part I love about the Modern Masters podcast, is talk about this. On your method, you had the photo of the elephants doing this amazing pose. And then you're bringing in the model, and you've got her in your studio and you're going to photograph her. You've got to get the lighting to be the same too.
Sure.
So that's got to be quite challenging in setting up the lights and getting the photo shoot ready to get your photo references. How challenging is that?
Not very.
Not very. I'm making you out to be this, like, what did you say earlier? It's not brain surgery. I love it. I love it. This is awesome.
Look at it.
Interview ever. This is the best. This is the best. All right, here's the last painting of yours that I want to show. And I'm geeking out so bad today. This is the best. This is the best. Matter of fact, my wife, I told her, I said, before, I'm showing my phone here, guys. And I says, OMG, I'm geeking out, chatting with both Julie and Boris before the show. And she says, living the dream, baby. And she's so right.
Well,
so here we go. This one has got zebras in it. I'm super excited. Who doesn't love zebras? But you don't? Yeah, because of all.
No, I do. But I used to have nightmares about them when I was a kid, and that's actually what I think of the painting. I know which one you're going to put up.
Oh, there's going to be a good story on this one. Here we go.
Yes,
tell us about this.
Right. So see, I used to have this terrible dream when I was a kid. I lived in Beaumont, Texas, and in our backyard. I used to climb trees all the time, and I was always up in the trees. But in the top of this one tree, a power line went across the top of the tree. And I was really afraid of that power line because, being a reasonably smart kid, I knew there was electricity in there and you shouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
I used to dream about that power line all the time. And I dreamed one time that it came out of the tree and fell down. I knocked it down or something. And then all of a sudden it just started like jumping around like a power line would, but it turned into this zebra shape. And then it was like galloping all over the place, and it went through my school, and it was like running through the school as a zebra. And then the army was coming with helicopters and stuff. It was terrible. And so I used to have these really bad dreams about zebras just going crazy. I don't know. It's really weird. But anyway, this painting is called Behind the Veil. And that is kind of my feeling here, is the idea of how, like the world of like just being a sane person, like inside our brains where so much chaos can be going on. And
right.
It's like, it's really a fortunate thing that most of us can keep that under a certain amount of control, and like be able to manage our own.
Yeah. Your description of it, you can see it. The woman she seems pretty calm, relaxed. And the horses around her are going nuts.
Yeah.
Going crazy.
Zebras are so expressive, and they're kind of like little, I guess I've heard that they're pretty kind of not real friendly creatures.
I've heard that too. That's the reason why we never domesticated zebras. Apparently they don't listen. I
think because they're so cool looking, everybody would want to have them, but they're just like, because it's like their nature is to just be really terrible, so we don't really want them.
Yeah, probably, I guess if your whole life is trying not to get eaten by lions and crocodiles,
or captured
and everything else, it might make you pretty tense. Yeah.
Right.
So that's funny. Now, yeah, I mean, they're just, again, with your artwork, these are the things that I've always been drawn to your artwork. It is the way that they're dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
They're dramatic, and it doesn't matter if you're painting a superhero or even with the tigers, it's a peaceful scene where they're all loving on each other, and it's intimate, but yet it brims with this power.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about it. It kind of, in a way, it reminds me of Caravaggio's work.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah.
You know, where it's like he can have.
I thought about Caravaggio with that tiger painting because of the way this one tiger looks like he's kind of speaking into the other tiger's ear.
Mm-hmm.
And Caravaggio would do that. What is that? The Sacred Conversations?
Yes.
And I always have loved that in those paintings where you see something that's like just this one little moment happening, and it's like it just feels so expressive of their whole relationship, you know, like there's trust there that he can get this close to speak like that. And I don't know, I just think there's a lot of I love that kind of drama. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really is that when you have that, there's like a visceral power to the paintings that is hard to capture. It's hard to capture those moments.
Yeah.
And you do that, you know, and your artwork is so hyper realistic. It's beautiful. There's a lot of, I mean, how long does a typical painting like that one take you to paint?
That one did take a long time. It's like 4 by 5 foot. So it's very large. And it's funny because I remember when I was working on it, I had been taking aerobics classes from this woman who just really, really kicks butt. And she is so good. And the thing is that in this lady's class, you're really just in there dying. And she'll say, like, is that all you got? You know, and she's like,
the drill sergeant one day.
Yeah. And the thing is that I was there painting those tigers. And I remember at one point feeling like, I'm just going to throw up because I can't take this anymore. And I was like, is that all you got?
I love it. I love it. Sometimes you have to have those moments, you know?
Yeah. You know, so it's like, I just was like, all right, I just have to get through. I have to do this. I have to get through this. And then then I can breathe and relax, you know? So yeah, I don't know how long it took. Honestly, I don't like to think about how long does this take or how any of these things with numbers. It's just, if I think about that kind of stuff, it just freaks me out.
Oh, I see. Well, you know, and we all have our different, like in the studio, what we're like.
Yes.
You know? Like this studio here, we just enclosed the garage.
Oh,
I put air conditioning in it. So I have a 400 square foot studio.
It's nice. Yeah.
And I love it. You know, I mean, that right there used to be the garage door, but there's a wall there. And, you know, and it's separated from the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my wife can still hear me.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells me, you know, she goes, "Are you singing?" And I'm like, "Yes." I'll get a text, "Are you singing?" And then it'll be like, "Yes." And she's like, "Please God, stop. I can hear you." You know, because, you know, one of the things, because I like to listen to, you know, Christian praise and worship music, and I'm singing and we're having a Jesus party in here and I'm painting, and the dog and me will have dance parties every now and then. And I always beat the dog in the dance party because I took ballroom dancing lessons and he did. So I win every time. I totally kick Oliver's butt at the dance parties. But I'm in here just blasted my music and I'm singing. And we don't call it singing because we can't call it singing. It's more, the Bible says make a joyful noise. That's what I do. It's not.
I love
pretty.
that. I love that.
It's not pretty. It's like my ex-wife once told me, she said, "You're singing," how would I describe it? She said, "It sounds like a chimpanzee with his foot caught in a blender." Like, okay, I'm still gonna sing. And so I'm in here and I'm singing and I'm painting and I'm dancing, and my kids have filmed me from behind many times, and then they post it on social media.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I gotta love kids. You know, my daughters especially, she's like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." And she's filming me, and I'm like, "Stop it." And it's out there. But we all have our different studio habits. What are some of your studio habits? You know, do you share a studio with Boris? I know.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, studio. It's what would have been the family room in the house.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a bigger space. And he's got half the room and I've got half the room, and my half has gotten to be much bigger than his half over time because I just do that. I don't know.
That's right. That's right. Mama can do anything she wants.
That's kind of how it is.
Right. That's chivalry right there. Good job, Boris.
He really doesn't mind. I mean, honestly, he doesn't paint, he kind of has like the largest size he has is not that large for me. And so he's fine with that. Anyway, so yeah, we have music every day. Boris grew up with all classical music pretty much only. And I grew up with all kinds of music. And so what we do is every other day, we take turns being the DJ for that day. And so,
nice.
Yeah, over all the years, my God, you cannot imagine all the things that I have learned about classical music. And I can recognize all kinds of composers and influences from this guy and that guy. And it's great to have learned so much about classical music during
and
this.
How much has he learned about America's 70s rock?
He has, because let me tell you, he did not know David Bowie from the Monkees at one time. So
oh man, wow. So now he is well educated. That's awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. Yeah. It's fun. Like my wife is 6 years older than me. And so I'm an 80s child. She's a 70s child.
Yeah.
And so our music is a bit different, but we still like some of the same. But when the rock and roll comes on, it's like, she's like, oh, I love these guys. I'm like, I was 6. She's like, stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good because I got me a sexy older woman for a wife. So it's, I'm pretty happy about that. But so, because my wife's not an artist.
Yeah.
And she was actually a ballet instructor for many years.
Really? I love ballet. I've
she
done a lot of ballet, and I love to hear about ballet. So tell me, what does she?
Yeah, she taught Russian Vaganova ballet.
Whoa.
And she was one of the only ones in America that were trained to teach like the official Vaganova Russian ballet. And so it was a very intense kind of ballet from Moscow. And her mentor actually went over to Russia in the middle of the Cold War and learned and got like certified over in Russia, and then came back to America and brought it back. So it was like a big, that was when you didn't go to Russia, And so it was a big deal. She brought it back, and who knew they landed in Panama City Beach, Florida, the redneck Riviera, and had this school for years. So my wife taught there for many years, and now she works for a defense contractor. But so it's different in our house because she appreciates the art. But you got 2 visual artists in there. Like, how does that? I mean, the music is fun, but
that's only good. That's really good. I mean, we do very much inspire each other. There are. I mean, we've done quite a few projects together because we've gotten commissions, especially when it's like advertising work. Now we get certain private commissions from people who specifically want us to do a painting together because they like it that we're that we're married and the whole relationship between us and that kind of a thing. So yeah, no, we don't ever have any conflict about working together at all. It's great. Yeah.
I know. You guys are married, and then there's another art power couple, David Kassan and Shayna Levinson.
Oh yeah,
and I went to school with Shayna. We were in college together, and at the Academy of Art University. And so she was that one in the class that we all loved her and hated her at the same time, and because she was just so good, and I'm so proud of her. And but yeah, they talk about that dichotomy, and to me, it's like iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
And it makes you sharper when you're around somebody.
It inspires you. You don't want to be a slacker, and I mean, I definitely feel like that if I ever felt like, oh gosh, I know he's getting behind on this deadline or something, and I wanted to inspire him to work, all I have to do is go in there and start working, and he'll come also. And
that'll get him to come in there and paint. There you go. Because, that's a powerful thing right there. Just having that motivation factor of they're in there painting, I got to get in there and paint too,
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of artists need to have that fellowship. And that's why art organizations are really important. you know, getting around either both locally and, you know, big ones like Portrait Society of America and different ones. What kind of organizations are you in? Are you in any like big
Portrait Society of America? And that's, you know, at the moment, I was participating with, what is it? The animal artist thing. I forgot what it's called all of a sudden. Just Society of Animal Artists or something like that. I can't remember. Wow. I can't.
Oh my goodness. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, not really. And I mean, Art Renewal Center, I'm actually judging their salon, part of the salon right now.
Right. They just had a big announcement of all the people that got into their finalists.
Right. So I'm working with the imaginative realism and the animal art divisions. And so that's really like, it's a lot. It's hard to judge. It's very hard. I am not comfortable being a judge. I'm excited to do it because I like to be part of it, but it rips my heart out because it's like,
to judge them.
This, you know, there's two things that are both insane. They're so good. And then it's like, you can't say this is better than that. It's different from that. And so it's like judge a pineapple and a mango. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't, you know.
Right. Did you ever think when you were first starting out, you know, in the 90s, that you would be here judging organizations like that?
No, not at all.
That's got to be humbling.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really something.
Oh, that is fantastic. Now you have had a storied career and now you're still going. You're still going with the children's books and everything.
I like to think of myself as a beginner. I really do. I mean, I really always want to keep that beginner mind feeling going. You know, I feel like that's the most productive way for me to be. And it makes me feel better. I like it.
Awesome. Well, do you have any real quick, so we can wrap this up? I know you got to be really busy with your life here, and you got to I'm sure it's lunchtime, so you got to get.
Yeah, Doug, she's gonna start giving me hell for not giving her dinner in a minute.
That's right. Yeah. But just give us some advice for some artists that are starting out their career and they're like, what's the number one advice that you would give to somebody just starting out?
I mean, I think the main thing is just keep going and to really manage your expectations of how long it may take for you to, you know, you just have to keep at it and keep going. I think a lot of people expect, you know, to be able to just suddenly be able to make a living immediately. And, you know, it takes a very long time to develop a career. And even like as you mature as an artist, your abilities can take decades to really get where you feel like you're getting control over what's happening better, you know. So I think just to keep going, that's it. Usually when people write to me, they're already good. And the main thing I have to say is just keep going, keep doing it, keep going.
Right. It's like what Michelangelo said, if people knew how hard I work to gain my mastery, they wouldn't think it's so wonderful.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, the part of doing anything like this is it makes, when you look at it from the outside, you see a Olympic figure skater. It looks so easy, but that's because of how much they've worked on it, you know. And if it looked hard, then they're not doing it right. So right.
That's the thing. A professional makes it look easy.
Yeah.
It's like there was a poster that my wife had in the ballet studio, and it was a picture of a professional ballerina's feet.
Yes.
And it was like a horror movie with Band-Aids and broken bones and everything else. And it was like, you looked at this beautiful ballerina's feet and you're like, and it's the price of mastery.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the thing, you know, we don't like damage our hands and stuff painting, but you know, there's a lot of work and effort and mastery in there.
Yeah.
And you have developed your skills to the point, like you were saying, when you first met Boris, he looked at your stuff and was like, oh, and now you inspire him to paint.
Oh,
take it to the next level. And so that's a beautiful thing. And so, well, I am so glad to have you on the show. We'll have to do this again. Maybe we'll get both of you on and we can do a art power couple episode.
Great. Yeah.
And that would be super cool. Are you guys going to be going to the Portrait Society event in DC this year?
I hope to do that. Yeah, I'm sure
Well,
that by then the virus thing will be more settled, but for sure, I really I plan to. I'm one of the finalists in their thing, and so I want to be able to go to it for sure. Yeah,
excellent. Well, maybe we can get you two together and we'll sit down and do an interview right there at the show,
that would be great.
at the conference. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So, excellent. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I'm going to say stay on.
Inviting me. Yeah, it was just super fun to speak with you and go through these questions, and I just loved it. It was great.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. This was a great treat for me, a huge pleasure. Stay on the line. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience, and then I'll come back and I'll chat with you real quick.
Okay, bye.
All right, guys. That was, oh man, I got to admit, that show was totally just for me. No, I'm kidding. It was for you too. Wasn't that a great show? Oh, wow. I'm so excited. This was the best ever. I'll tell you what a blessing that was to talk with Julie Bell. If you get a chance, I'm going to put her website up right now one more time. You can find her at juliebell.com, or you can also check out her and her husband Boris at borisjulie.com, and you can check out some of their collaborative work and different things on their website. So check them out, guys. It is, oh man, what a great show. I'm gonna be walking 2 feet off the ground for like the rest of the day, probably the weekend. I'm so amped. But do me a favor, guys, if you like this episode as much as I did, please like our Gagnon Atelier page on Facebook, and go over to YouTube and hit the subscribe button on our Gagnon Atelier YouTube channel. I would appreciate that so much. And that way you can watch this episode, and every episode we've ever done of the Modern Masters podcast is on there. We have got so many great artists that we've spoken with from all kinds of background and different genres. And so I know that you will, if you like this episode, you're going to love all the other episodes too. So with that said, guys, just remember, as always, God loves you, and so does your old pal, Tim. We'll talk to you next time.